There are a number of tournaments going on this weekend, and many people are undoubtedly having difficulty determining which tournaments they want to watch. So, the three tournaments that are going on this weekend are the E League Clash for Cash, a show match between Astralis and Virtus Pro, a rematch of the major finals, the E League major finals, and the talent here are quite good. The production value is always good with E League. The prize money is absurd for the just a best of three, and this was played out already. Astralis won that uh, quite well, and then there is the DreamHack Summer. Good teams there like SK, and there's some talent, broadcasting talent there that we don't get to hear from so often. For the EU Minor Championship, so that's certainly lesser competition there, but this is the first time that we're seeing them play on land some of the time, or we rarely get to see them play on land. And this is a good opportunity to scout out the talent that are, well, the up and comers who are going to be playing at the major qualifier, people that we're going to be seeing in tournaments in the future, and people that we might even be seeing at the major itself. The broadcasting talent at this event are also quite respectable, people like Thorin, Red Eye, and others. Um, so, we can debate oversaturation versus poor scheduling, anytime, but right now I think it's a good time to make a video on why to watch VODs and the kind of discuss this problem that is perhaps even greater than the oversaturation and sometimes the poor scheduling problem. Admittedly, we've gotten mostly past the poor scheduling issues in esports, but obviously, as I said, that is a topic for another day. So, even mentioning VODs in esports has kind of a stigma to it. Many people do not want to watch VODs. Most people will not watch something in esports that's more than a second old and is not a highlight clip. Um, but, watching the live streams, yeah, exclusively live streams, makes sense if you are the most casual fan. And I'm not talking about people who post stupid shit on HLTV or Reddit. Those people actually have knowledge of what's going on, although they don't actually use it properly. The people that are the most casual, most new, most basic level fans are the people who started, like, let's say, a few weeks ago. Um, let's say they come from League of Legends or come from Counter-Strike, and this is their first time watching Counter-Strike esports, so they tune into whatever is on, they like it a little bit, then maybe they watch again next week, and they don't watch anything until the major when there's all this hype surrounding it. They're you don't become a crazy esports fan, buy all the shirts for your favorite teams overnight. It's a gradual process, and that's understandable. I completely get that. But for the people who have been here for a long time and are complaining about oversaturation, complaining about the number of tournaments here, yes, that is understandable. But you can already start to fix these problems with your viewing habits. You don't have to view these live. You don't have to like fuck your schedule up completely or feel that you have to just to watch these games and keep up with the times in esports. That is. So, you know, watching VODs has existed for decades in competitive sports. So, like basketball, baseball, what have you. There have been DVRs that people have been using to tape the games and then watch them after the fact. People have been getting around this issue for decades, and it's been seen as a luxury. We've had this luxury in esports from the beginning, but very few people have taken advantage of it. And that's quite horrendous to me as someone who depends largely on VODs and watches mostly VODs because it's very difficult to keep up with them. It's good to reference these when I write articles, make videos, just, for personal interest. Um, but another real world example to relate to the esports problem that we're facing is like let's say you are a very basic fan, like the level of a casual esports fan, but this is for The Simpsons, let's say. So you watch The Simpsons whenever it's on, whenever you don't have anything to do. You think it's a little bit funny. It's not the best thing you've ever seen, but you just watch it. That's it. You see some new clips, maybe or new episodes. Maybe you watch the same episode more than once. You really couldn't care that much. But I wouldn't. Me advocating for VODs is not like saying, telling that kind of viewer to go buy the Simpsons box set. For the person who watches The Simpsons and really likes The Simpsons, but is really tired of the boring episodes, the same old stuff that they've seen, and really wants to. They know that The Simpsons has been on for many years. It's like the longest running television show or something like that. Um, Instead of just watching the same old stuff that they broadcast on TV, they want to get it would make sense for them to get the DVDs so that they can watch it on their own time, watch the episodes that aren't always broadcasted on TV, watch stuff that they haven't seen before, and watch it as many times as they like, whenever they like. So the me advocating for VODs is not kind of pushing this in the face of the very casual fans, but if you're watching a video like this, if you're watching videos about Counter-Strike or esports or whatever, reading articles, any of that stuff, if you go on Reddit for CSGO and are interested in the esports topics, be on HLTV, whatever. If you're one of these people who've gotten to that point and you're unsatisfied with scheduling problems and all this stuff with that's currently being discussed in esports, then VODs are the thing that you should be looking at. Also, this stigma towards VODs has really taken down the scene. There's been quite a few problems associated with that, and I'll be getting into those now. So, for example, people who don't watch the VODs for events, let's say there is a break between tournaments. I think this happened in March or something, or April, whatever it was, after the Star Ladder. There was, or I don't know, sometime around that, I remember there was a 2 or 3 week break where there were no tournaments. Instead of just watching the online CS, which people have established over the course of the 2 decades that esports has been around, is substantially inferior to LAN competition, that it's not worth as much. People have even, like Virtus Pro, let's say, they don't even care about online CS. Like, they dropped out of EPL. They had ESL had to expand the league for them so that they could stay in. The fan vote, this other stuff, all that nonsense. So there was all that around Virtus Pro, that they got one chance and now it's up. They don't even care about online CS. Their careers are on the line. Like that, we know that they're capable of making it to the major finals. We know that they're capable of all these great things. Yet they don't care about online CS. So if they don't care about it and their careers are on the line, their livelihoods, then why should you? I think that's probably the most powerful reason for not wanting to watch online CS. But there's all these other problems that are associated with it, even though we've kind of gotten past some of them, like the problems with ping, the problems with internet connections and DDoSing, hacking, match fixing, that sort of stuff, that all devalue the online competition, and that stuff isn't so much as present on LAN. But if instead of just tuning into the whatever is on the EPL matches that are going on, you could go watch the best of 3 that's on LAN, where the pressure is on, and you could be watching that instead of the really boring best of 1 that's online. I think it's pretty easy to understand for anyone. Like, if you look at just okay, basically none of this matters. People like hitting a leather sort of ball with a stick, and then some guys trying to catch it. That's sort of that's pretty boring, basic shit that means nothing. Okay, but that's baseball, and uh, there's like a multi-billion-dollar industry surrounding it. It's America's pastime. Loads of people dedicate their lives to this, and we have, as a culture, determined that this does mean something. So esports, this also means something. When you see like hype games, like pressure moments, that does mean something. Online CS compared to LAN CS does not mean anything. There's watching a let's say or listening to a Babe Ruth home run clip or whatever. That's going to interest some people. That has meaning. And we're talking about stuff that happened 100 years or more. He started playing in 1914, I think. But anyways, people can still be captivated by this guy's career. How come people in esports can't be captivated by something that was the last LAN event played, or the last best of three played on LAN, or and some of these are taking place on the same exact patch that that the current patch is on, the current patch that people in matchmaking are playing. So I find that really ridiculous, absurd, unreasonable. All those words. Anyways, uh, online Counter Strike also promotes a improper view of the esport that we're talking about. Like, let's say you watch Space Soldiers do really well against Astralis Online, and you think that because you watch a lot of online CS and you see Xantares do very well against all the people online, you're going to think that Xantares is a good player. But when it really matters, Device is the better player. Device is better than Xantares. Xantares is nothing compared to even the lower stars in like the top 10 of LAN competition. So we've established this, but lots of people don't seem to really be ignoring it, and are not really taking it into how they like their viewing habits, basically. Going past the negative things about not watching VODs and instead opting to watch online CS. Just another point about online CS. It's so bad that like I don't even watch it. I have no I don't really value it that much. I use it purely for trends, and since I'm not being paid to like broadcast these things and other people are, they determine those trends for me, and they can determine those trends for you. Whether Cloud9 is doing better online, then Cloud9 is probably going to be doing better on LAN. Just because they beat SK online doesn't mean that they're going to do better on LAN versus SK. Of course not. We've already established this. But largely, online CS isn't meaningful for what the actual CS is. So, I'd recommend instead of watching online CS, that you go outside, read a book, watch a movie, just do something else with your time. Online CS, watching that is one of the worst things that you could do. And if you want to watch CS, if you have a craving for CS or any esport, you name it, watch the VODs of the LAN. Some of the benefits of watching the VODs, what I was going to get into a minute ago, is that you can watch these VODs at your own pace at whatever time you want. It's perfect. It's the way that I prefer watching them. And as someone who really analyzes the game, someone who has to come to certain conclusions, has to form opinions on this. I get paid to write about this stuff. I actually enjoy spoilers, and really it helps me to determine which games I want to watch. Like I'm not going to necessarily watch a group stage game between SK and NRG. But if I found out in the Reddit thread that NRG smashed SK and that they were playing the games of their lives, and SK didn't just suck or anything like that, they actually played well, but NRG played that much better than SK, then I'd be inclined to watch the game. If it was the like, you know, you, instead of just watching these games on the live stream, you can filter these out and determine how best to spend your time. And this is quite important for someone like myself who actually has to, you know, spend his time wisely when it comes to esports, because I'm not just watching the games. I'm not just listening to people like Thorin or reading Wallaby Beatles articles. I actually have to do some of this work myself. It's not just all consumption and relaxation. Um, anyways, you know, it really does help you filter out the bad games from the good games. But I realize that there are some people who don't like spoilers, and in games like League of Legends, like the subreddit there, they have the spoilers off. You know, I haven't been on the League of Legends subreddit in quite a while, but you know, I know the CS:GO subreddit doesn't do that. But you know, you just don't have to visit the CS:GO subreddit. It's not that big of a deal. So like there are very easy ways to avoid spoilers if you're someone who really likes to feel the if you kind of get off on the suspense and the pressure of the moments in that way. I'm personally someone who doesn't really get off on that. But anyways, the having the results beforehand and having this does help me kind of analyze the games better, choose what I want to watch. You know, in the case of 3 tournaments going on at once, it it really helps to filter out, okay, do I want to watch this or do I want to watch that, and determine that based on the teams that are playing and based on the result. It also helps you filter out commercials and delays and stuff like that. If you're watching it live, you just have to sit there. You know, if you get up from your computer and decide to go to a restaurant or whatever you're going to do, you're going to be away from the game, and you know, maybe the pause is just 5 minutes to swap out a computer or something. But if you know, you could be sitting there for an hour if you uh, are forced to sit there. Maybe like for the breaks in between the games, then between the analysis desks, like you're going to be stuck with that DreamHack Techno, like DreamHack sponsored by HyperX or whatever screen, and it's incredibly annoying to listen to and just sit there and watch. So you know, obviously you're going to get annoyed and like you know, I guess ticked off with esports at that point, and you're going to want to do something else, like play a game or just do anything else rather than listen to that annoying music. Instead of just you know, spending your time doing other things, you can streamline the process with watching the VODs. You can skip through that. You know, you don't even have to skip through that. There are multiple organizers who give you game by game. I know DreamHack does this. They include the analysis in their VODs, like let's say game one between SK and Astralis, for example. Just making that up. They have the pre and post match analysis, and then you can you can skip to through that if you want, but you're not going to be forced to watch the. You know, they completely factor out the commercials in between the games, and that's a wonderful thing for someone who doesn't want to watch that stuff. So, you know, there really are a lot of incentives to watch VODs. You can skip the uninteresting games, you can skip through the uninteresting parts of games, and you can rewind it as if necessary. You know, this isn't a really big deal anymore with the advent of replays now. Like, you know, a lot of the important highlights are being shown at like right after the round. But another, let's say you're talking to someone, you get interrupted, and then you know, if you're watching a live stream, you can't go back. Well, you can go back, but it's a big hassle, especially if you're on Twitch. So, you know, instead of having to do that, you could have just paused the VOD that you're watching, or if you didn't pause the VOD, you can just go back one or two or three rounds, whatever it was. So it, you know, these VODs really are flexible for how you want to live your life, how you want to watch esports, and for someone who has a lot of work to do, someone who wants to make esports work for me, basically, that's how I prefer to watch VODs than watch live streams. And for people complaining about time zones, and this is especially common around the majors, especially around American majors like E League, the E League major and the MLG one. There were Reddit threads about people complaining at the times and stuff, like, oh, I don't want to watch the major when it's too late for me or something like that. Oh, can't they just start later or start earlier? And when these events are starting at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, they're asking for people to start it at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is obviously not possible. Or let's say in the case of an American like myself, you want you don't want ESL one or IEM Cologne to start at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, how about 9 o'clock in the morning? But obviously they're going to run till whatever, like 2 o'clock in the morning, let's say, for the German time, and that just isn't feasible. So you're going to have to. They have these set schedules to keep by, which the venue imposes on them, which the city imposes on the venue. That there's no way of getting out of this. Like ESL One Cologne has to start at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to whatever time it goes to. It can't start later. So like, I've accepted that, and as someone who has to really watch these games, I'm not going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and fuck my schedule up by waking up so early and all that nonsense. I'm going to wait 6 hours later and watch the VODs. The amazing thing about watching VODs is that I don't have to sit through all the commercials. I don't have to sit through all the delays and all that nonsense. I get to skip right through that. And even though my esports counterparts are ahead of me, like the other people are going to be writing articles, making videos, I'm actually going to be delaying the time that I'm sitting in front of the computer or sitting in front of these streams and all that, and I could be devoting that time to writing an article after the fact, watch through all the stuff, and instead of trying to write stuff in between delays, which is obviously not conducive to like proper deep thought, I'll have all this done in a shorter space of time and have more productive time to produce content. That's for me and someone who produces videos and articles in esports. But for someone like yourself, someone who probably doesn't make these things in esports, you have a life to live, you have a job to go do, you have things to do. We all have things to do, and cutting down the time that the esports event that you want to watch takes place, the stuff that you're not interested in, is more time that you can be spending living your life and doing other things. So I think there are an abundance of reasons to watch VODs over watching streams, and obviously I'm going to watch the major finals when they happen, but for certain events like this, when you physically can't watch these events, then VODs are a logical solution to consuming your esports content. And I think that the stigma surrounding VODs and watching them, or I don't know, stigma might not be the proper word for it, but lots of people don't want to watch VODs and are disgusted when you suggest that. Anyways, I think that VODs are a incredibly resourceful way to watch the game, and I think that if you're having problems consuming esports, that you should try them.